Hello everyone, I'm Scruffy at Scruffy Tales, and you have just found the War Zone. And in this video we will be taking a look at the Russian advances outside of the town of Terny and how and why Russia is trying to push towards this town. And unfortunately, Ukraine seems to be falling back. First off, we have the frontline map, and the area we're talking about is located in the red box. Hang on, we'll see if we can get this to work. Let's see. All right, so red box with the area we're talking about, and it's this area here. And here you have the town of Terny, and the Russians are advancing in this area right here. And what is important here is that we have this river, and Russia is trying to reach Terny because at Terny you have several bridges crossing this river. Right, so yeah, at the start of the month, Russia came out of nowhere and grabbed something around like 10 square kilometers, and took the Ukrainians completely by surprise, and pushed west up here and grabbed a whole lot of territory. And then a day later they pushed out here, down here, and pushed into a valley here. And this is also a valley up here, by the way. And then a day or two later, Ukraine mounted a counterattack up here in the north. And as you can see, Russia had this territory here. They had the valley all the way up to this forest, and they also had the windbreak here. Now Ukraine launched a counterattack, and as you can see, Russian control has been pushed back almost to this road. They lost control of this area here. Russia was even pushed back up here from the windbreak up here. So Ukraine put in a lot of effort to push the Russians back. And the valley is still contested, but Russia has no control over it. But Russia has not been idle. They are still in the fight. They made a push over here. As you can see, they crossed the fields here, and now this windbreak here is completely in Russian control. They also made advances here and here. And if you take a look at this forest here, that is in a valley that Russia wants. So they now pushed up into the woods here, into this forest. So they are in this valley, trying to push further into it. They've also made advances down here along this windbreak, and they have now secured the entire length of this windbreak. And this gives them the opportunity to push in north into this forest, and potentially even into this valley here. And we're gonna take a closer look up here in the orange box. This is the area where the Ukraine launched a counterattack, and the Russians had moved into the valley here and secured this windbreak. They had also taken the edge of the valley down here and pushed along the windbreak and the road here. And then Ukraine launched their counterattack, as it were, and even pushed Russia back up here. Russia lost complete control of this windbreak, as Ukraine probably came out of the valley and crossed the field and stormed into the windbreak. Russia had control of this valley all the way up to the edge of the forest, but as you can see, they've been pushed back almost to the road and the very edge of the valley, which indicates that Ukraine launched a big push through the forest into the valley here and forced Russia to fall back. Fighting is probably still going on in this area here, and I suspect this is where the two sides are now clashing, trying to gain the upper hand in this valley. Russia also had control of this area after they surprised the Ukrainians, but now Ukraine has pushed the Russians out of this area. It's still contested, but it's not in Russian control. On the other hand, Russia has managed to, as you can see here, this windbreak was not in Russian control, but now it is. You can see the date here is a bit off. It's because I tried to make this video a couple of days ago, but my computer decided to basically buttfuck me and didn't allow me to make the video. It just failed to properly convert to something I could upload to YouTube. So this is, I think, the third attempt at making this video, or fourth even. So that's why the date is a bit off. But as you can see, Russia has, and this is still true according to Deep State, Russia is still in control of this windbreak here. And still in the same area, this box here is the valley with the forest where the Ukrainians pushed the Russians back. Sorry, excuse me. And this is that very valley. Russia used to have control all the way up here, but Ukraine has now pushed in and forced them back to over here. And I believe that this tree lane here and this tree lane here on the very edges of the valley is where the main fighting is going on. Probably not down here since there's not much cover, but the Ukrainians and the Russians are probably going head to head among the trees here, trying to regain control of this section of the valley. And this map here is this box here, and as you can see on this map, this is where Russia used to be in control, and they have now been pushed back. And I think it probably looks something like this, that Russia has taken this windbreak here and this windbreak here, and since this area is contested, Ukraine has more than likely been able to push into the trees here, and Russia is probably still in control of this area here that is close to their controlled territory down here. So points of contact all along here, and obviously over here as well. This is where Ukraine and the Ukrainians and the Russians are going head to head in force. As you can see here, this is controlled area for Ukraine, controlled area for Russia, and in between we have the contested area, and that is this space here, and more than likely the scene of very heavy fighting as the Russians are trying to push along this windbreak over here, and also trying to get into the valley once more. And moving south a bit from the previous map, not that far, up here is the territory. I think you recognize the feature where Ukraine moved in and forced Russia out, and this is the tree lane that Russia secured. And but if we go back a couple of days, you can see here that this tree lane here, this windbreak, was contested, more than likely in Ukrainian hands, because Russia had not managed to push out to this area yet, so Ukraine probably had the ability to move troops in. What I think might have happened is that Russia made a dash here in the south across the field. It's not that far from the windbreaks that were in Russian control to Ukrainian positions, so probably made a dash over here and gained a foothold. And at the same time, like we see here, they moved in force and took this area here, and this forced, I think, the Ukrainians to withdraw from the windbreak entirely, moving back to their own secure territory up here. And this gave Russia access to the entire windbreak, and that is why it is now in Russian control. And this makes things a lot easier for Russia. Obviously, they don't need to deal with this part of the area anymore. They can set up shop with big guns and what have you and fire across the field and support their efforts trying to push west in this area by firing up at Ukrainian positions. And what the Russians at this point are trying to do is to push west along the windbreak here in order to reach this area here, which is an access point into a important valley. And so, and as you can see up here, this is the contested area in the windbreak, and this is where the main fighting is going on around here. So Ukraine, they need to hold this area in order to deny Russia the chance to swing around, making use of the windbreaks in order to reach the valley here. And moving further south still, this is where I said that Russia might have made a dash over to the windbreak that they eventually managed to grab control of. As you can see here, Russia has not yet on this map pushed into the valley properly, but they did forcefully advance into Ukrainian positions all along the front here. And as you can see up here, Russian control is now well and truly within the valley. And taking a look at the larger map here, this is the valley here. It goes all the way here and it goes down here. So this is the valley we're talking about. And Russia used to be in control of this area here, basically, and down here in the windbreaks and down here. And they have then pushed their control to this line here. So they went up this windbreak. And this area is contested, but since Russia has not managed to grab the windbreak here, and Russia is not in control of this road, that tells me that Ukraine has plenty of troops in this windbreak down here, and they are actually holding the line. So this is a more than likely point of contact where the Russians are trying to push up the last couple of meters to be able to cross the road. Something similar is going on over here. They followed this windbreak more than likely and pushed into the valley, into this forested area here. They were unable to cross the valley into the windbreak and tree lanes here because the Ukrainians are probably holding this territory, holding the line along the tree line and the windbreak. So Russia tried to get across and failed because this area is full of Ukrainians defending fiercely what they are, the territory they are still in control of. And it also appears as if, according to Deep State at least, that Russia has pushed into the valley along this forest. Likewise, the same thing over here. They've pushed into the forests, and we more than likely have a point of contact in this windbreak. And the real intense fighting, I suspect, is going on over here where the distances are very short between the Russians in the forest and this windbreak here. That is more than likely in Ukrainian control. And we will now take a close look at this location. Right, so here we have it, the forest that is in Russian control and the windbreaks that the Ukrainians are holding on to. And what I suspect is that we have a point of contact here. As you can see, the forest reaches over the valley into the windbreak itself, so it would be natural for the Russians, since they are in control of the forest here, to follow this stretch of woods, as that's where the cover is, and use that to reach Ukrainian positions. So this is probably the site of some very heavy fighting, where the Russians are trying to advance into Ukrainian positions. And the Ukrainians are more than likely focusing a lot of firepower on this area here. Mortars and machine guns are probably hitting this space non-stop, to be honest. The Russians have a good opportunity down here as well to reach Ukrainian positions. It's not that wide of an area. It's open ground, however, but I feel it's doable if they have enough suppression aimed at the Ukrainians to actually dash across and find cover and take the fight to the Ukrainians up close. If you take a look at this map, this is a 3D map, so we can see or get a feel for the valley and the lay of the land. This is the windbreak that Russia controlled, and here is where they entered into the valley and pushed north. So this forest here is actually this forest here. So this narrow point here is located here, and this vital point of contact is located here. So as you can see, the Ukrainians are, I suspect, holding this forested area here, and then we have the Russians in the forests here. So more than likely, there's a lot of fire going on across the valley between these forces. And as you can see, if Russia manages to take control of this area here, well, that would be this area. They then have access into this larger, wider valley that is completely covered with woodlands. And this valley is excellent for infantry fighting. They can move in soldiers, they have a lot of ground, a lot of cover, they can maneuver, and they can, well, essentially conduct traditional warfare. Like, they don't have to fight up here on the open flat fields that we have here and here. This is where you want to fight. This is where infantry can move, maneuver, and make use of cover. So it's absolutely crucial, absolutely vital for Ukraine to defend this area here. If they let the Russians through, then the fight will continue into this valley, and truth be told, then anything can happen. So Ukraine really needs to hold the line here. Sorry for that, headset shut down. Beep, beep, beep. If that happens again, just know in a second or two I'll be back talking, having restarted the headset. So yeah, like I said, Ukraine really needs to hold the line here, and they can't afford to let the Russians through, because then it's really anyone's game, really. Russians, they aren't afraid to send in a wall of meat to get the job done. And yes, it's a choke point, but it also suits Russian tactics of just flooding an area with infantry. So really important that the Ukrainians managed to hold this part of the front, this very tiny, narrow, small part of the front line. Right. Zooming out quite a bit, this is what the Russians are after. We can see them trying to gain access to this valley here and this valley here. And they try to follow the windbreak here and gain access to the valley here in order to get into the valley and move on here. Same thing down here. This is where the area we were just talking about, where they have gained access to the forests, and this is the vital area that Ukraine needs to hold, because if they can't hold here, then the Russians will push into this valley here. And the Russians also have the ability to try and get into a valley here and potentially push into the forest here. And what is the point of all of this? Why am I talking about these valleys? Well, it allows the Russians to stay away from all the flat, wide open farmland that are excellent kill zones. So the valleys provides protection, cover, and allows them to fight traditional infantry warfare. And the end goal is to reach Terny. And why is Terny important? Well, here we have the river, and here we have lots and lots and lots of bridges. Russia wants these bridges, and in order to get the bridges, they need to grab Terny, they need to grab Yampolivka. And in order to grab the towns, they need to advance somehow, and they do that through the valleys. And you also have these roads highlighted with the yellow dotted lines that are leading from Russian occupied territory into the towns and to the bridges. So these will be the logistical routes that Russians will rely on to bring in reinforcements, bring in supplies, bring in hardware to Terny, and then try and push on across the bridges further west. Sorry. And in order to achieve this, in order to grab Terny and so that they can then push on, I think this box here will be very crucial for the Russians in the days to come, if they get this far, that is. And zooming in up here, we have Terny and the very edge of the town, and here we have one of the valleys. And why was this box so important? Well, let's say that Russia manages to push this far in a couple of days, maybe a couple of weeks, so that they are holding this area here, they are holding the valley down here. Then they've secured this choke point. And here we have one of the yellow dotted, one of the roads that I marked with a yellow dotted line before. This is important because here, if Russia controls this part, then Ukraine has no way of being able to open fire on the road down here. They can obviously send in drones and what have you, but they can't really aim direct fire at this part of the road. And this gives Russia the ability to move trucks and what have you along the road and get them very close to the front line in order to unload reinforcements, supplies, ammunition, water, what have you. So this section here could very well become a forward base of operations for the Russians, where they can dash in with trucks, unload what needs to be unloaded, and the trucks can then just turn around and head back out. And the Russians have ample supplies to continue pushing in to this valley here. And the same thing goes for the valley down here, since if we take a look at this box here, you have a road that leads down here and you have dirt roads leading into the valley up here. And essentially it's the same box over here. If the Russians take a left turn, they can follow the road here, and what do they have down here? Well, the valley. So if Russia manages to get this far, they can then roll in reinforcements and supplies, make use of these dirt roads and these smaller roads in order to set up forward bases of operations really close to the front line, giving the Russian troops a very good chance of pushing into Ukrainian territory fully supplied and with lots of reinforcements. So yeah, that's what's going on in and around Terny. If you ask me, we have the Russians making strong attempts into reaching these valleys, these very vital valleys that will allow the Russians to reach Terny without having to cross these wide open deadly fields. And they will be able to secure these supply lines that can reinforce their positions if they manage to reach Terny, and then Terny will become a staging point for pushing across the bridges or what have you, if they make makeshift bridges, if they rely on boats, who knows. And then they can try and push across the river and attack the Ukrainians on the far side of the river. But it appears as if Ukraine won't allow this to happen without a fight. They have counterattacked up here and pushed the Russians back quite a ways, and hopefully Ukraine will do the same even down here. So yeah, what is the point of all of this then? Well, here we have Terny and the Russian attempts to reach it, and this area here is this area here, and this is part of a grander attempt, a grand scheme on the strategic level to grab all the territory east of the Oskil River. This dotted line here is the Oskil River, and the dotted line here is the small river here, where we can find Terny. So the Russians, first and foremost, need to push out to this small river and secure the territory east of it. And if they do that, they then control lots and lots of bridges. And if they do that, then they can push west and try and claim the territory down here. And they want to do this in conjunction with an attack from Satove towards Barove, which they've already tried. That failed, thank God. And last but not least, they will also try and make a massive push from the north, grabbing Kupiansk and following the Oskil River south. So it's a three-pronged attack that will, if successful, grab a huge chunk of Ukraine and make it occupied territory. And that's it. Once again, rambling. Well, let's see if this one works. Like I said, I tried to make this video 3, 4, 5 times, failed miserably, so fingers crossed. Let's see if this works. And with that said, go po marsh, Ukraine, give them hell.